Okay, getting all set here, ready to start Chiller Chat. In about 4 minutes. Now I am jumping on here a little early so that I can make sure everything. Oh, Ava says, "Hey baby," and blows me a kiss. Right back at you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My biggest support. So I appreciate that. Like to make sure that all the sound equipment is functioning properly and everything is looking good. Corpus says hello, hello, hello. And we are, this is going to be kind of a neat. Now I'll explain this. What's going to happen is in just a few minutes, we'll start the show. I'll start the opening credits, and I will be talking with Nate Reagan about Star Wars, just all things Star Wars. Nothing too focused on, other than toward the end we'll probably get into, of course, the rise of Skywalker coming up. But then here's the thing. Here's what makes this a little different than a regular episode that I film at the TV studio. When it comes down to the bottom of the hour at 8:30, because I'll be timing the interview real time, and I'll conclude the show. I'll roll the credits, and then we'll come back on, because the YouTube version of this could go on for 45 minutes or an hour. David says good evening. Well, good evening, David. Thanks for joining us. And we've got about 2 minutes. I think everything's in order here. I believe so. All right. And also, again, if any of you have any questions, comments, anything that you want to interject, please do. Feel free to interact. It's not that different, when we're doing it this way than the chiller pre-shows on Saturday nights that we do. So. Just have fun. Cassandra says hi everybody, or hi everyone. Hello Cassandra, thanks for joining us. And we will be starting this up in just a few minutes. And this episode right here will be next Saturday night's feature Chiller Chat episode at 11 p.m. on Stream TV. So, all right, what do we got? We still have about a minute left. All right. So I hope everybody just feels free to join in. Now I will be talking with Nate for about at least a good 15 minutes or so before I start taking questions or comments. Of course, I'll fill it out. I mean, if it looks like, if I happen to see something that we want to talk about, I'll pose the question or comment, and we'll go with that. Brad said, well, I'll get that. I'll actually start that when I start the show. So we'll hear that on Stream TV. I gotta save the opening. Okay, it's 7:59, and then in about 20 seconds. So this ought to be a fun one. So, all right, everybody, and the countdown. We got 10 seconds. All right. Again, if you want to add anything, questions or comments, feel free. Interacting is no different than our Saturday night show. Okay. 8 o'clock. Here we go. Hey everybody, how's it going? I am Bryan Hogue. Welcome to another week of Chiller Chat. Now tonight we are going to be discussing Star Wars. I'll tell you why. Because now this is being recorded live, okay? But you will be seeing it if you're watching Stream TV, if you're watching television. You'll be seeing this on May 4th. Of course, May 4th is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and call my guest, Nate Reagan, and we're going to get started with talking Star Wars. But before we do, we got to do the intro. Brad says, it's Chiller Chat Live with Bryan Hogue, starring Bryan Hogue, and now here's Bryan. And Corpus says, and away we go. So keep interacting, folks. I do appreciate that. And let's see if we can get Nate on the phone here. All right, here we go.
Hello.
Hello, Nate. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing very well. I'm just putting your picture up. Now you're official. You're my official guest for tonight.
Awesome.
And we're going to be talking about Star Wars.
That's exciting for the most part.
For the most part. I've been, we talked about, we did our last Jedi movie review last year, and then I think it's kind of fitting right now that we do this when we're doing it, because this will be featured not only on May 4th, but of course the trailer to The Rise of Skywalker just recently came out. Did you see the trailer?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
I was impressed by it. I know that it was, like a teaser, just a teaser trailer, so it didn't show much. But
yeah.
I don't want to say it was what I expected, but I kind of expected to get excited by it because it's Star Wars. Like, how can you not be excited by it?
Yeah. I very much enjoyed hearing Emperor Palpatine's laugh at the end.
Yes.
And I'm really hoping to see him again. I hope it's not like a hologram or something. I want to see the Emperor back.
Right.
So and just if you're wondering about this, some of you out there, like how could they bring him back? I will say this: there was a from Dark Horse Comics. There was a series. There was a storyline called Dark Empire. And it actually had the Emperor coming back through his energy field leaving his body when he was thrown down the shaft in the Death Star, and it went into one of his clones where he had a cloning facility. So it was kind of a neat idea. So I'm sure with just a little bit of tweaking in those ideas along that line, they'll be able to bring him back with no problem.
I hope so.
That would be cool. Okay, Raymond says, may the force be with Jack Shadow. I'm reading some of these comments. And then Corpus says, so how many old versus new guard do we have here? That's a good question. I think we'll find out along the way here tonight, Corpus, with some of the comments. And now, let's see. This episode, I explained to the viewers, will be featured on May 4th. And that, I don't know if you knew about this, Nate, but I had to look this up. I didn't know this. The meaning behind Star Wars Day, or why it was picked as May 4th, because it wasn't released that day on 1977. But the reason...
Which is the popular myth, the rumor behind it.
Yeah, and I actually, because I was thinking... I kind of was going along with that. Like, okay, I'll buy that, May 4th. Okay, I knew it was in May of 1977, but it seemed to me, as weird as this, of all the things to remember, it just seemed like it was closer toward the end of the month. But it actually was, I had to write this down because I just couldn't believe. First said by Margaret Thatcher, the day she took office as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on May 4th. 1979. Isn't that something?
Wow. Yeah, I did not know that either.
I totally did not see that coming. But that's where we get May 4th, and then it was later called, much later, started to be called Star Wars Day. So just a little bit of trivia for all you viewers, and for me, I didn't know that today either. So.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Okay, now. On we go. This is a. I know you're a big Star Wars fan. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm sure many of our viewers are big Star Wars fans. We, you and I and some of the people that I know, certainly had our letdown with The Last Jedi. Although I know people who enjoy that movie, and I hope that they can. I hope that they can kind of improve on the storyline going forward. What do you think?
They have to. I think they absolutely have to.
Yeah, yeah. As far as story writing goes, obviously the second installment in this, the Last Jedi, in this new trilogy was, it just, I think what gets a lot of people, and I don't want to rehash, the movie review and trashing The Last Jedi, although I should. No, I won't do that. But I think, I don't know. Let me ask you that. I was going to save this toward the end, but I want to ask you right now. What do you think? What would it take for you to redeem this or to save this storyline? What would it take for you? Do you have any idea?
I think it seems like a simple answer, but it's also kind of complicated. I guess if you're a Star Wars fan, which we are, you know what it means. It would just, I guess it's kind of simple. Like, it has to feel like a Star Wars movie again.
Yeah.
That was one of, obviously many, but one of my biggest complaints about The Last Jedi was it just didn't feel like at any time, with the exception of the opening credits, that I was watching a Star Wars movie, and it just felt so out of place, and not even the choices that were made that were, in my opinion, awful, but just the overall feel of the movie did not feel like a Star Wars movie. All the humor that was in it seemed like just something it just felt like a skit. Like, it just, everything was off about it, and it didn't feel Star Wars to me. So yeah. I think that's first and foremost, is it has to feel like a Star Wars movie again.
Yeah. The Force Awakens, actually, I thought that it did capture that feel, but The Last Jedi felt more like Good Luck Charlie in space. It just, right. It didn't, they were trying the forced humor. It just didn't. I think you're right on about that. It has to feel like a Star Wars movie again. And I mentioned this about 2 weeks ago on the Chiller Night pre-show that I do on Saturday nights. I mentioned what I think could fix this, the Rise of Skywalker, for me, and even to the point. Now this is a drastic statement coming from me, because everybody who knows me knows that I detested The Last Jedi. I mean, I see nothing redeemable about it, except, and maybe they'll think of a more clever way if they get new writers, which I'm sure they did with J.J. Abrams, right?
Right.
Okay, so I know he's directing it. I didn't know if he wrote it, but there's a series on television called I think this was called Rebels. And I don't watch it, but I do know it's an animated series. And they had an episode in there, or maybe several, that dealt with this thing called the world between worlds. I think. Is there an echo here, Nate?
No, I'm good. I can hear it.
Okay. Are you watching this on your end?
Nope.
Okay. All right. I'm just getting a little bit of an echo. I wasn't sure what that was from. But anyways, the world between worlds. They introduced the idea of this Jedi temple. I think if I'm chopping this up, and that could very well be possible because I don't watch that show, but I've been watching on YouTube. Over the last year or so, there's this temple where the characters were walking through, and they were seeing these doorways open to different timelines within the Star Wars universe. They were hearing voices from the future, which are the movies that we saw, because this takes place before A New Hope, and they were actually seeing. The character was actually able to see and hear things that were taking place in the past, present, and future. Now, the only thing that, I think it would be really interesting if they could just introduce that even however briefly, and have a character walk past and see some of the key scenes from some of the expanded universe storylines, like Heir to the Empire, the Timothy Zahn trilogy novels, maybe Dark Empire, or some of them that show that the characters and the storylines that the fans have developed and loved for the last 30-some years before Disney bought Lucasfilm and said, okay, none of those matter now.
Right.
They didn't happen in our storyline. I think if they did that and told us that that was just one possible timeline that we're witnessing, I could kind of wrap my mind around that. I could kind of get on board with that idea. That The Last Jedi, sure, it happened in that timeline, but there's also other possibilities. So that's what would make it okay for me.
Well, yeah, and I think also just in general, that idea of kind of saying like it happened, but it didn't matter. You see so many people that love The Last Jedi, and they're already saying, oh, if The Rise of Skywalker makes it where, Rey's parents are, like, she's a Skywalker somehow or something or other. And, they're already ready to be like, that's going to be horrible and I won't support that. And what I always want to say to them is like, listen, we had The Force Awakens, and then Rian Johnson came along with The Last Jedi, and he literally threw everything that they did for The Force Awakens out the window.
Yeah.
So if you're okay with that, then you have to be okay with JJ coming back and saying, you know what, we're going to do the same thing with The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
We're going to throw everything that we didn't like that they did out the window, and we're going to do it right.
It's just a bad dream, a bad Force vision.
Right.
Please let that happen. I don't know. Hopefully they do really listen to at least a majority, or half, if not a majority of the fans, and do something. And if you did like that movie, and the viewers did like that movie, more power to you. Then all the better. But obviously a lot of people didn't. But what was the first Star Wars movie that you actually saw when you were a kid at the theater?
It would probably have been, I want to say it was Return of the Jedi, whenever they brought them back in theaters, when I don't remember the anniversary of the trilogy, but they did that thing where it was like every couple months they brought a new one.
Yeah, in 97 they started doing that again for the 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would have, I'm pretty sure it was Return of the Jedi, and obviously I had already seen the movies, countless times on video, on VHS, but that was the first one that I saw in theaters.
And out of all the Star Wars movies so far, I got to ask you, what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
I would probably say either A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back. For some reason, it's always between those two.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. I'd have to agree. I probably lean a little bit more toward Empire.
Yeah.
But yeah. I totally agree. Let me see some of these comments here. Real quick. Brad says, like I said, it better be better than episode 8. Okay. Andrew says, what's up, Nate Reagan? And Andrew says, I'm here for Nate Reagan. Okay.
Nice,
Good deal.
Nice.
Yeah. And hopefully you like Star Wars too, Andrew. But Corpus said, okay, oops, now it's moving along. I can't. Wow, okay, these comments are bumping. Okay, do you usually have Star Wars marathons on May 4th every year? I don't know. Do you, Nate?
No, I mean, it might be something that I did when I was younger. I'm sure, back when there was only like 3 movies. Then it got a little bit harder when we had 6 movies, and now we're about to have 9. Well, I guess 11 if you count, kind of the spin-offs. So I guess it gets a little bit harder. So no.
Speaking of the spin-offs, Did you enjoy Rogue One?
I did, yeah.
I love that movie. I loved
Yeah.
it. I thought that I had a lot of hope for the direction of Star Wars under Disney's new Lucasfilm, and
Yeah.
then and I think a lot of people did. Even the Force Awakens, it wasn't a great movie as far as storyline. It was pretty much borrowed from A New Hope, but still it had,
Right.
like you had brought up, had that feel. It had something about it that felt like Star Wars. And when I remember thinking this when I was a kid. You know, I was thinking it would be so cool if they did a Star Wars movie and maybe a little bit more serious tone to it, and it felt more like a war movie. I always wanted to see something like that done, even as a little kid. I always thought that with Star Wars, the dogfight at the end, the X-wings and the TIE fighters, sort of gave you that World War II aerial dogfight type of look and feel. I thought,
Right.
well, wouldn't that be kind of neat if they did it? And I think Rogue One was the answer to that. I really, I felt like that was a World War II movie in space.
Right.
I loved
And
it.
that worked for it, I thought, because I guess someone could make the argument, well, it didn't really feel like a Star Wars movie. Well, it wasn't. It didn't need to feel like an episode, so to speak. It just it's a completely different movie with a completely different style that happens to take place in the Star Wars universe, and that's
Yeah.
okay. It worked for that movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did really enjoy that movie.
Now, Corpus said, I'm not saying they were successful, but I think that they were trying to raise everything and create a new legend. And I understand that, but here's where I disagree with the method in which the approach they took is, okay, now Cobra Kai just came out, and I know that we made this comparison last year at this time, and appropriately so, because they're able to take characters from 30 plus years ago, and now get this, I found myself being getting involved with the new characters that they were introducing,
Right.
Miguel
And their children.
and
Like,
Hawk. And
You're
yeah,
adults. You're identifying with these kids.
the new kids, and I was actually I was actually enjoying the story even with the kids, and I never thought that was going to happen. They balanced it so well between the old characters that you knew and loved and were cheering for or rooting against back then, and the new ones coming up. I really think that was a perfect balance. And not only that, but they Ray, for example, the main character of this new trilogy, after the Last Jedi, I didn't care. There was nothing that they were doing that was making her interesting, because I didn't see a character arc. I didn't see I didn't see development. It was just boom. Oh, okay, the most powerful character. There was no explanation as to her. We didn't get to see her grow as a character.
Right.
It was just, the Force was downloaded like an app, and and then boom, there it is. At least with so I understand what Corpus is saying. I personally didn't care for the approach that they took, but I do feel that if they were going to continue the storylines, of course they would have to do that. They have to introduce new characters, but the key is they got to make you want to care for these characters too. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I didn't think they pulled. I thought that could have been done after The Force Awakens, because I was actually thinking, okay, explain to me how Rey was able to beat Kylo Ren. Like, I was actually wanting to hear this. Like
Right.
oh, okay. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, thinking, okay, they're gonna have a really good explanation for this, and like, oh no, girl power or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I mean,
yeah, she's just awesome.
no, that's not enough. I like what Princess Leia was one of the original strong female characters that I could remember as a child growing up. So, that's interesting.
Right.
But the approach that they took with her, there was no character development, and there was no reason for that. And I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I understand what Corpus is saying, but um, I don't. I thought they could have done a much better job. Andrew says Oscar Isaac crushes it in both so far. Oh, okay. What do you think
Yeah,
about that? The guy who plays Poe. I think the actors are doing good from what they're being
absolutely.
told. You know, I heard this thing about actors being criticized, and they didn't like the characters, they didn't like this and that. Some of the people, and I think that was probably over inflated some of those
Right.
stories. Just to make a story. To almost victimize some of the actors, so us against them, and if they're victims, then the people doing it are the bad people. They're bad, you're good. It was just a little. It was almost like a political campaign type of strategy in a way. But I thought, oh my gosh, these actors did a great job. There's nobody on these movies who did a bad job. They were doing what they were told to do,
Right.
and using their craft to do it. But I don't know. That we shall see. We shall see what the Rise of Skywalker has to present to us. Corpus says, I agree that she is brought in very quickly. No, we're speaking about Rey to play devil's advocate. That's totally what the first Star Wars was like too, in its way. All the characters were new and pushed forward. They were, but we got to see Luke as the farm boy on Tatooine, and he ends up in this, saving the rebellion in this battle. How he goes from being the farm boy to the hero at the end. Um, to me, yeah, the other characters were already established, but even like Han Solo, the scoundrel, the rogue, the mercenary,
Right.
what's he have
Well,
at the end?
it's also told, very early on in A New Hope, like that Luke's father was a Jedi.
Yeah,
So you already have that link almost immediately, and not in the beginning of the movie, but almost immediately after the character's introduced, you're almost immediately told that, hey, Luke, he's the son of a Jedi. So that right there, while it might not be like, hours of setup to show you how he gets to that point, at least you have a reason established as to why he might end up becoming, such a heroic and amazing character with these skills. But even then, being the son of a Jedi, he struggled through the training on the Millennium Falcon, and there was just, he really doesn't become, like, go full circle until Return of the Jedi.
right. And even with that, with what Corpus is saying, what you're saying, I was actually ready to accept Rey as this character from the Force Awakens. I was ready to accept her being strong in the Force because we were going to learn who her parents were and all this and that. Or I was thinking maybe it was either Luke, or Ben Kenobi, somebody maybe guiding her. So like I was still intrigued at this point, and I could see I wasn't turned off by the Force Awakens with her abilities at the end of the movie. I wasn't turned off by that. It was
Right.
only until the Last Jedi when everything was just discarded, and none of it made sense to the viewers, and that was my problem, a big problem. Um, so Brad says, "I'm sorry, but I can't get over the fact when Luke Skywalker threw his lightsaber over his right shoulder like that. Unbelievable."
Exactly. That was my first sign watching this movie that something was off and something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And I don't think in the way they intended. I wasn't feeling like, boy, there's something really off about Luke. I wonder what's going on. It was just like, what's happening in this movie right now? Like, what am I watching?
Yeah, that was like what Disney did with the whole Star Wars storyline. It was very representative in a way. If you look at it
Right.
like that, just take Star Wars, take the franchise and toss it, give it a good toss.
You could almost remove Luke Skywalker from that scene and put like Ryan Johnson in his place and have like JJ handing him like here's the script for The Force Awakens, so you know what the storyline should be like. Yes. And he just throws it, over the cliff, and it's like, I don't think so.
Yeah. Now remember, Ryan, this is a multi-billion-dollar franchise, and you have decades of people and several generations who hold this up with high reverence. Please do a good job. Be careful with this. Sure.
Right.
Where's the nearest cliff? But anyways, what about? I'll tell you what. We got about 4 minutes left till I roll the credits at the end of this. We're gonna, after the credits, you and I will still continue to talk, because this is the we have two versions, viewers, if you don't know. We have the Stream TV version, which is 30 minutes, and then we have the YouTube, which can go on a lot longer than that. But maybe I'll save that. No, Solo. What'd you think of Solo? Did you like that one?
Yeah, I did. I don't know. I didn't like it as much as Rogue One, but I felt like, obviously after the horrible taste that was left in my mouth after seeing The Last Jedi, that Solo wasn't like amazing. I was kind of like, okay, like at least I enjoyed watching this movie. Like,
yeah,
there's issues with it, and it was really silly, but I don't know. I enjoyed watching it. Is about the best I can say about it.
I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I thought it was a fun movie. I enjoyed seeing a young Han Solo and Chewbacca and Lando Calrissian. I enjoyed that. In fact, I wouldn't mind seeing more of those. Just right. Because I loved after Star Wars and the Empire came out, I had the books. I had the Han Solo books. I had the Lando Calrissian books. I was when they said they were going to do a Star Wars or a Solo movie, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But what happened, unfortunately, is, people like myself and many, many, many others didn't see Solo because they were so turned off by The Last Jedi. Unfortunately, Solo paid a big price for that. Yeah. Because Lucasfilm was to pay the price for that, because people were not going to give them their money. They wanted to send a message, and that's not my opinion. That's actually what happened with, right. A lot of people refused to give Lucasfilm their money, and Solo was on the bad end of that, because I thought it was an enjoyable, entertaining movie. I would right. watch another one of those. I waited for that to come out on Netflix. I wasn't going to pay for it. I already had Netflix. So, yeah, that's a shame, because it was an enjoyable movie. I thought it was entertaining. And unfortunately, the movie that came before it, I think, had a lot to do with that movie bombing, at least profit-wise at the box office.
Right, and it's so funny to say like a movie that made because that movie made a ton of money, but it's like for a Star Wars movie to not make like $500 million, it bombed.
Right, right. Because they are you're taking in and don't take it from me, folks, because I'm really chopping this up, these facts. There are tons and tons of videos on YouTube and stuff explaining. And I'm no financial, expert. I don't know, but they're explained after hearing from numerous sites. The explanation of how much went into the movie, how much was anticipated overseas, how much actually went into marketing the movie that didn't go into what you're seeing. It was the first Star Wars movie that bombed, at the box office, and yeah, that's hard to imagine. But let me run these end credits real quick, and then we'll jump back on here, Nate. So, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. If you're watching this on TV, thank you for joining us. If you want to see the episode in its entirety, hop on to Chiller Night Theater's YouTube channel, and we'll see you later. Thanks again.
many times do I have to tell you, just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad?
Okay, thank you for being patient, and we are back. And okay, now, like I said, I was very very interested to see the Han Solo movie. I was all about it, and I gotta say, I'm excited about seeing Lando coming back for the Rise of Skywalker. Although I don't see me actually going to the theater. You know, unless I hear some great things. They got me once. They fooled me once. You know, I'm not gonna let them do that again.
Yeah, I'm hoping that you know, I hope that a lot of the reviews, the early reviews, will say, you know, if you hated The Last Jedi, you have to see this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
That would get me there for sure on opening night.
Yeah. Episode. Yeah, going through episode 7, The Force Awakens, episode 8, How to Screw Up Star Wars, episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Oh no, that was The Last Jedi. And then episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I don't know. If I have hope. I have a little bit of hope, and maybe that's just me wanting it so bad, you know, that they can fix this. Can you fix this? Lucasfilm, can you fix this? I guess that has yet to be seen, but now let's see. Corpus said, Solo was fun, simple but fun. Rogue One I really enjoyed. I agree with that, absolutely. And then Andrew says, that's true. I liked Force Awakens and Rogue One. Then The Last Jedi reeked, so I didn't bother with Solo. So there is something, you know, to that. I mean, not just from what I'm telling you. We actually have one of our viewers saying that as well. And then Brad says, poor Ava. That's probably, you know, and for what is specifically he's talking about, I don't know, but Corpus says, I love the end credits of the Chiller Chat. That's cool. And then Cassandra says, awesomeness. So okay, so we have, okay, now here's something I wanted to touch on too. The Mandalorian.
Yes.
I what do you think? What do you think? How do you think that's going to be?
I'm hoping it's going to be amazing. I mean, the early footage and photos seem to look amazing. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the first live-action Star Wars TV series is and what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
I can say that it's got to be stressful for everybody involved because,
oh my gosh,
you know,
yeah.
unless, you know, if Ryan Johnson was involved, he just wouldn't care. But,
yeah, right.
But I'm sure they're all just, you know, they're probably very stressed because there's a lot riding on this. I mean, if this is a success, I think we'll see many more live-action Star Wars because there's lots of stories to be told in, you know, the television format. So I think, you know, I just think there's a lot riding on it. So I'm hoping that it's good.
Well, Jon Favreau is the you know, the power behind this series. Isn't that right? Isn't
yes.
Favreau?
Yep.
Okay, and now I'm hoping because he seems like a fan. He seems like a true fan, and I think that it is the responsible thing to do to give a project like this to a true fan, just like the Cobra Kai. You know what these guys are doing. This was their obsession. You know, their Star Wars was the Karate Kid, so they, you know, they brought it back and knocked it out of the park once again with season 2.
Right.
I won't give any spoilers away because it just came out this week. But wow, what a I wish we could be having this conversation right now about Star Wars. I really do. And I mean, to bring back characters from that long ago and to be that excited, you know, and I had much more excitement about Cobra Kai season 2 than I did with, you know, even when I saw the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. It really affected me that much. The Last Jedi did. So
right.
That's horrible. That's horrible that they let that happen. But Yeah, Corpus says that is a ton of pressure, man. Yeah. And then Brad says after Last Jedi, everything went wrong. Well, that is true though. Anything going on? Well, if the Mandalorian actors and crew have the pressure, imagine the Rise of Skywalker crew there. Now they have to get this right. Can you imagine
Right.
being part of that movie right now? I mean, that would be that pressure would almost be tangible. you know.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why I had faith restored back when they announced that JJ was returning. And I'm not saying that JJ's this amazing director and he can do no harm and he did like the greatest Star. Like, I'm not saying that at all, but I was fine with The Force Awakens. Yeah, I had issues, but I felt like JJ coming back, and I know there's reasons for that, but I feel like the behind the scenes story it's very clear that they were like, dude, you have to come back and you have to do what you did again with The Force Awakens, because at least people like that movie.
Yeah, and I think
you have to fix this mess.
I think one of the biggest advantages JJ has right now is that he's not Rian Johnson.
Right. Exactly.
But I think The Mandalorian is. I am so curious to see how that's going to go, because it takes place. Now this is varied. I've heard 3 years of 5 years. The last I've heard it was 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So and also now Andrew says I'm optimistic about the Boba Fett show. I am optimistic about it, although they are claiming that the Mandalorian, the main character, is not Boba Fett. I don't know if that's just to throw you off. I don't know. I don't know if he will make an appearance. In every expanded universe story, Boba Fett did survive the Sarlacc pit. I mean, he escaped. So, are they gonna bring him back? I think that would be kind of a neat thing. They're bringing some of the other bounty hunters back, like we saw the picture of IG-88, the robot bounty hunter.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see what they're gonna do. Anytime they bring back the original characters, like I'm sure they're gonna bring back like Bosk and Dengar and IG-88, and why not Boba Fett?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I mean, like you said, he's. I mean, anybody that knows anything about the expanded universe knows that he's still alive, that he didn't die in that pit.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not all that far fetched, because he had a rocket pack, he had he has weaponry, he has armor. I mean, if anybody could get out of that, I'm sure he would have been able to. So I don't know. I'm anxious to see it. I really am. Anytime, like I said, anytime they bring back the characters like Lando Calrissian, I'm excited about that idea with the Rise of Skywalker. But on the other hand, I was saying this a year ago. Billy D. Williams, do not answer your phone. Do not answer your emails. Don't go into this Star Wars universe right now, because they're just humiliating and killing off the original characters, Don't do it. But I'm sure the paycheck was, you can't turn that down. And maybe he really does love the character. Who knows? But I'm glad he accepted. Now, what are they going to do with that character? Don't kill him off just because he's older. I think that's I don't mind characters dying a hero's death. I don't care, young or old. If it makes sense in the story, I don't mind that.
Right.
I didn't mind Luke, the idea of Luke dying, but I didn't like the way that I thought it was horrible the way they did it, and the timing. Any story should be having the setups and the payoffs, and that one failed short. They killed him off before that arc was done, and I just hope they don't do that with Lando.
Right.
Just bringing them back to kill them off. I don't know. But
yeah, it's kind of like when they first announced like Scream 4, like almost 10 years ago now. And they were, there was a lot of talk about, well, what this movie's going to do is, it's going to bring back the original cast, and then it's going to, in, introduce a new generation of characters for, you know, a new trilogy, and they'll probably just kill off the old cast. And, you know, there are all these rumors that, like, everybody just wanted to die, like the original characters. They just wanted to come back and be killed off and pass the franchise on to a new generation. And then, like, as they started morphing the story and stuff and talking about it, they kind of realized, like, well, we don't have to kill them off just because they're the old characters.
Yes.
Like, we don't have to do that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know where that was just, you know, they thought that was a good idea. I don't, like I said, I don't mind. Like, even the Dark Knight Rises, at the end of that movie, you know, I've heard different viewpoints as to whether Batman actually dies in that movie. I did not mind him dying in that. If that's what happened. I don't know if he escaped or died. It was a bit confusing there at the end. Like, is it a metaphorical ending or is it a literal? But when he took that bomb out, flew it over the water there, and it detonated, I thought, okay, that's a hero's death. I don't mind that. That's your main hero of the story, and almost and Star Wars is very mythical, anyways. I don't mind that. I don't mind that kind of mythical ending for the hero. I don't care, but the way, you know, you have to do it right. You have to be responsible with that storyline.
Right.
And even if it's obviously no more real than, you know, Mickey Mouse is, but still, the thing that's important by the, you know, they say it's just a movie. It's just a movie. I heard that excuse after The Last Jedi. But when you're messing with a story that so many fans are, if it was just a movie and you don't care, why are we giving you our money? You know, why are we, you know, Mark Hamill saying that almost in an apologetic way. It's just a movie. Don't get so upset. Well,
right.
You know, fans for decades have been invested in this storyline. It's a story. You know, it's a story. And
yeah, and when people say something's just a movie, like, I always get offended by that, because it's, you know, as a, you know, obviously, like, movies make up the majority of my life and, you know, what I do, and it's just kind of like, to most people, it's not just a movie. Like, I think the majority of people, you know, movies they love are not just movies. And the other thing I always think of, it's like, when people say that, it's like, dude, this movie's going to outlive you and me, and, you know, it's going to outlive us all. So you don't want to make a bad movie.
No, because it's bad writing if you're going to trail off and do something like that. Like, okay, an example. If you're going to do a crossover between Marvel and DC, and you just said, okay, we had you know, Aquaman come in and kill the Hulk. Okay, might be an interesting story, but now you've just left a mess for all the other writers after that to clean up, because you didn't stick with, probably, you know, if the story before that had nothing to do with that, and you went off and said, okay, in this little slice of my crossover universe, that's what's going to happen, and now you've left a mess for everybody else to clean up afterwards. It's you can't do that when you're talking about canon, the storyline, you know, the official storyline that's adopted by, you know, Lucasfilm or whatever, you know, if it's Star Trek or Star Wars, they're still canon, and that's, you have to have that. You have to have rules, and you have to have canon, your storyline.
That would be my question to Disney or Lucasfilm or whoever, if I, you know, could pose any question to them about The Last Jedi, would be like, where were the people that were like, no. Yes, this is your movie, and you can certainly make the movie that you want to make, but there's things you cannot do. And, you know, this is one of them. Like, where were those people?
Right. Yeah, you may be piloting this ship, but this is my cruiser. This is my cruise liner, and I'm not going to let you sink it. Listen to this now. This is something I was shocked to read. Dale, one of the viewers, came on. He's chatting. Okay. Dale says, "I'm most dreadfully embarrassed." So I'm putting him on here by saying, "But I've never seen any of the Star Wars." That's amazing. That's amazing. Dale, you gotta catch up. You gotta watch these, Maybe you should just watch a big marathon. Get them all and just watch them all in a row. So
yeah, I know very few people. I might know like one person maybe that comes to mind that I know has never seen Star Wars, and it's not because he doesn't want to. He's already so far behind everybody else that he's just like, I just don't know where to start, and I don't know when to start. But yeah, that's rare to find someone that's never seen any of them.
Well, Corpus says to him, there is still time to redeem yourself. Yes, Dale. Go out, go forth, and get your movies, get your Star Wars movies, and catch up. And then Cassandra says, I have missed a few as well. Watch them on May 4th. There you go. So, well, this was pretty fun. I actually had a picture here because of some people may question why we're talking about Star Wars on Chiller Chat, and I posted before we started this that horror hosts for decades, since the beginning, horror hosts have featured science fiction movies, and then I posted this picture here of hold on, I got to take your picture down here just for a second. Star Wars on the cover of Famous Monsters magazine. I don't know if you ever saw those. I used to get those when I was a kid. And this was actually a cover from 1977 when the movie first came out. But the chiller, the horror, science fiction have always kind of gone hand in hand, and it certainly is for the chiller experience. So I'll put you back up here. All right.
Yeah, and it's I always think of stuff like that. Like when you point out things like that, it always makes me think. Like what if Star Wars wasn't the huge hit that it became, and gone on to have that many sequels and be like the biggest franchise in like history. Obviously we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, but I feel like Star Wars would be one of those if it was just a standalone film that just came out and nobody saw. I feel like you would still have that fan base, but it would just kind of be that weird B movie that people would talk about. Like, remember that weird movie that George Lucas guy made, like, in 1977 that nobody really saw? Yeah. That weird space movie? It kind of can fit into that same realm of these, type of movies that you show on your show,
Yeah. Yeah, it would be like, I don't know, probably a lot of CGI flash in the pan, very forgettable. It'd be like Transformers, or it'd be like I don't know. I've sat and watched maybe one of those, and I was like, oh my god, there's too much. There's too much. My mind can't catch up with this stuff. But oh well. It's I don't know. What do you guys think? What are we seeing here? Corpus says sci-fi is old school. Dale says I will be taking Cassandra's advice. All right, good. You watch those Star Wars movies, and then I think you'll like them. They're entertaining, except for the Last Jedi. Yeah. And then the Corpus says it's always going hand in hand with horror. That's right. Invading UFOs and monstrous alien beings and all that good stuff. And they say Star Wars is not science fiction, it's space fantasy. Well, if there's laser guns and laser swords and spaceships, it's science fiction to me. So and then Dale says, isn't Star Wars the highest grossing film of all time? The newest one, The Last Jedi? I don't know about
film
that.
Of all time? I think that's still technically, when you do like adjusted for inflation, I think it's like Gone with the Wind still.
Well, if you're saying, okay, now I'm going to bring up a little point here, and I don't know if that was the gist of the question was if it was such a bad movie, why did it make so much money? I'm gonna lay this out here. My little example. Okay, I used to run haunted houses, and soon will be this year again. Okay, but let's say I, as a haunted house owner, let's say I've developed customers over years and years of doing this haunted house, and I have people come, they expect a certain degree of horror, they have at least a general idea of what to expect. They know that they're going to be entertained, from past experiences. And this year I opened one up, and instead of monsters and horror, I just litter that thing. I fill it full of Rainbow Bright and Cabbage Patch Kids and oh boy, you know what? Because I wanted to take this whole experience into a bold new direction. Just like they were saying with The Last Jedi, okay? Well, you took it in a bold new direction, but it was, like I said before, driving off a cliff is a bold new direction. Doesn't mean it's the right one. But here's the thing. Opening night. You got all these people here. Opening night. I've got 5,000 people waiting to get inside. I get all their money. It's still, hey, I had a very successful opening night. I made a lot of money. Off of that. Now, the only problem is, and there are a handful of people who really like Rainbow Bright and Cabbage Patch Kids. And they're, they gave me a pat on the back. Hey, good job. But there are a ton of people who really came there with a substantially different expectation. And they didn't get that. And they're not coming back. They're not the ones who are going to come back 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And, obviously I'm making that comparison to, the Star Wars viewers. It did well. I mean, it did well to some degree, but there was such a huge division with the fans. The fans are in an uproar over it. I mean, that did happen.
It also has one of those, I don't know how do I want to say it? It's almost like people that might have been on the fence, like, maybe I like Star Wars, but I don't see them all in theaters. If I see the new one, I see it, whatever. I'll see it eventually. It also had such bad word of mouth that there's probably a lot of people that went to see it just to see, like, how did they fuck up Star Wars? I gotta see this.
Well, yeah, because Star Wars was one of those movies that you really shouldn't have. How do you mess that up? I mean, yeah, Jar Jar Binks, but that wasn't the whole. You didn't mess up the entire movie. There were parts of the movie that were messed up, but the entire movie, there's been Star Wars movies that have not been good, but where they weren't bad enough to ruin the storyline, the entire the entire direction of the story.
Right.
So I don't know. That was quite a task Rian Johnson did. He did something that I don't think anybody else could have done in history, is screw up Star Wars that bad. But
And hey, listen, there's plenty of movies out there that, I guess it's all opinion based, but that are, in my opinion, terrible, that have made, $1 bajillion. And it's just, I don't get it. But it's like, okay, just because it made so much money doesn't make it a good movie, which I think was the point you were trying to make there. The point you made there.
Yeah, well, trying might be more accurate as well. But but going back to my original experience with Star Wars, and then we can kind of put a lid on the episode for tonight. But because I had a lot of fun, and then we'll. But what I'm saying is, like, when I first saw Star Wars, that was wow, what an experience. I mean, that movie, when you hear something change in your life, I don't know exactly how to say that a movie changed my life, but I think it changed my life in the way I thought about things, in the way that I allowed my imagination to open up for the good, and in a way that I'd never seen before, and most people hadn't seen either. In 1977 when that movie came out, it was like, The Wizard of Oz or King Kong. There were certain movies, certain milestone in movie history that, and Star Wars, the first one, was one of them. So for decades and decades, I've just been just such a fan, and I hope it can be salvaged.
Right. Yeah, and I agree, and I think I told you this before, but my experience with the new Star Wars films, my son Channing, who's 8 now, I took him to the theater to see The Force Awakens. He loved it. When it came out, to buy, obviously I bought it, and he watched it like a ton of times, and he wanted all the toys, and it was like he was, living like my childhood and your childhood, even more so. And then when The Last Jedi came out, I took him to see that, and he just kept asking me in the theater, like, when's this going to be over? When's this going to be over? He couldn't have been, like, less interested in it.
Yeah.
And he's never asked about it since then. He didn't want any of the toys. He didn't care. And I think that really shows what damage it did because, we could talk all day and we have all this prior history with the franchises for our reasons for not being engaged with it. But you have a child who's fresh to it, and these are the type of people that it really should be appealing to.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't there, like, for him at all.
Yeah. What a big fun universe that is, though. I mean, the whole Star Wars universe, and for so many years up until just recently, of course, I and myself and millions of others have had fun with that, and we really let our imaginations run wild with the possibilities of those characters and that universe. So I am hoping that they can somehow fix this. I don't know, but I guess we'll all see together. Leroy says, hey, horror fam jam. All right. Hey, Leroy. Let's see Brad says The Last Jedi made the Star Wars Christmas holiday special look good. I remember watching that when it first came on, by the way. Did you notice something? I'm going to say this really, really quick. Then I'll, but on The Mandalorian, when you see the character looking like Boba Fett in that similar armor, the Mandalorian armor, what he's carrying, the weapon he's carrying, is the weapon that Boba Fett was using in the holiday special, in the animated segment of him. I don't know if many people caught that, but as soon as I saw that, I thought, that's the gun he had in the holiday special. And when you see it, you'll know exactly. It's a very unforgettable shape to it. It kind of looks like oh gosh, how would you even explain it? I don't even know how to explain it. Like a tuner or something at the very end, like it kind of a forked tuner at the end of the. Yeah, that's that, and it was very long weapon, a long rifle of some type, laser rifle. But I thought that was really interesting. So I'll read a few more comments. And Nate, do you have anything else before we call it a night?
No, I think that's it.
Oh, Corpus said that's a very good point about your son, Nate. That does. I remember you telling me that last time, and boy, that speaks volumes on the point that I think that we're making now. And I wanted to talk about Star Wars, both good and bad, both past, present, and future, and I see Star Wars overall as a very positive thing. So, like I said, my hope, my wish, my desire is that they can pull it out of the mud that it seemed to have been in for this last year and a half or 2 years. And we shall see. If you're a fan of The Last Jedi, good. If you're a fan of Star Wars, great. And hopefully we'll all be fans of The Rise of Skywalker coming out this December. So, all right. Anything else in, Nate?
No, that's it. I'm just excited to see it, and I hope that it lives up to my expectations, I guess. I just
agree.
want it to feel like a Star Wars movie again.
Me too, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you once again coming on here and sharing your views on Star Wars with me and being a guest here on Chiller Chat. I really appreciate that. So
absolutely, thank you for having me again.
Oh, heck yeah, anytime. We had this is what your 4th time back on the show, I think.
Yeah.
So and thank you everybody who watched the show tonight here, and join us next time for another Chiller Chat. I was trying to think of something like same Jack time, same Jack channel. Okay. All right, everybody, have a good night. We'll see you next time. Oh, and don't forget, Saturday night, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, YouTube and Facebook. The Chiller Night Pre-Show right here on online. So hope to see you then. See you guys.